Good day. My name is Candace Wasacase, and I'm here to introduce you to and talk with our special guest today on behalf of the Threads Conference. The theme of this conference is Reimagining, and we're going to offer you a little bit of insight into what we think as Indigenous people and what identity means, and how that reimagine and reshapes Canada. Our guest today is Lyndon Linklater. He is a citizen of the Thunderchild First Nation. Lyndon comes from a long line of cultural people and cultural influencers, if we can use that term, but has made a significant mark in our country in terms of cultural leadership, and particularly in the context of Saskatoon, where we're shooting from today. So welcome, Lyndon. You know, I've known you for some time, and I know how respected you and your family are. We have been First Nations people from the time we walked on this earth. But the role of what we play in Canada and beyond continues to evolve and emerge. I just want to get to know you a little bit, and if you can tell me a little bit about yourself growing up in Canada and as a perspective from an Indigenous man.
Well, I'm sure many of your listeners, guests out there that are going to be watching will know that we as First Nation people are very diverse, that we come from right across what we refer to as a Turtle Island. I guess another way to say it is the continent of North America. And we speak different languages. We have different customs, traditions, cultures. We're very diverse. So how I grew up, on my father's side, we come from what is now called Northwestern Ontario. We come from Treaty 3 territory. And in English, they call us Ojibwe people. And anyone who's ever been in Ontario will know there's lots of Ojibwe people. Yeah, lots of Ojibwe. So that's what we are on my father's side. We are Ojibwe, or in our language, Anishinaabe. So we're Anishinaabe people. On my mom's side, we come from Treaty 6, which is now called Saskatchewan and Alberta. And in English, they call us Plains Cree. So I come from two different First Nation bloodlines, you know, and growing up, we were always taught to be proud of our ancestors, to be proud of our culture and our traditions and our ways. And growing up, you know, we didn't really know that we were different in terms of having a traditional cultural upbringing. We didn't know that until years and years later. For example, in our household, we would have a special meal called a feast. And we'd always see my mom, you know, take a little bit of food from every dish and put it into one bowl. And then she would light a smudge, and she'd smudge that full bowl of food that she picked. And you know, as children, we would ask, like, why are you doing that? And we were taught we're going to feed our ancestors. We're going to feed our loved ones that have passed away. So to us, children, you know, after a certain amount of time, it was very common, and like we knew, you know, what was going on. Sometimes we would be the ones to get the bowl ready for my mom or my dad, you know, to get it, or our grandparents when they would come visit. But we didn't know that in itself is very traditional. Yeah, we didn't know that, and because at the time, growing up in the city where we grew up, there were not too many Indigenous people. In fact, I remember going to kindergarten, And I had an older brother, he's in grade 1. And then we got the oldest brother, he was in grade 2. So there's 3 of us Linklater brothers. And the school must have had like a couple hundred children. And of all the children in the school, me and my 2 brothers were the only dark-skinned colored kids in the whole school. So we were an obvious visible minority. And as a result, you know, we would get teased and they'd be mean to us. The other children would be mean to us and they'd call us names. And sometimes we'd get into fights. And that's just how it was growing up. My mom was a really huge influencer. And as I mentioned, my mom's influence, she taught us to be proud of our culture, to be proud of our heritage. That's my mom.
Oh, yes.
And my sister and me. And you'll see that's me, and I'm 10 years old. Already, what we call it powwow, dancing powwow, you know. And in this photograph, I'm about 14 years old. Growing up, that's my mom's influence in our household. And we never thought nothing about it. But it wasn't until years passed, you know, we would meet other Indigenous people. And already, like, we're dancing powwow, but they're not.
Yeah.
You know, so but it wasn't until years later it seemed culture would fall on our laps. You know, as I got older, I finished you know, high school. I went to college. Ultimately, I left Ontario to move to Saskatchewan here to go to university. And I went on to get a university education. I went into the workforce. And it would just always seem anything to do with culture would fall on my lap.
Yeah.
Ask Lyndon. Talk to Lyndon. You know, we got to work with some elders. We need to ask an elder a question. How do we do that? I don't know. Talk to Lyndon. Like, and I don't know, but they would come and ask me. But I didn't realize it though. There is like cultural significance when you learn about dancing powwow, when you learn about you know, smudging and praying and like these ceremonies. Like, you don't think of it at the time, but certainly because people don't know. They don't, you know, they just do not know. And so they'll ask you to do something, and so and you know what to do, it seems. So that's how it would work for me.
You know, it's interesting because you brought up being a small child and being one of, you know, you and your brothers being the only sort of 3 Indigenous kids in the entire school, and being ridiculed and being made fun of because of your grounded in traditions. And you didn't realize that that was different because it was just your normal. But as you grew, what you were teased for and what your foundational values become more and more appreciated. Do you have a reason, or do you have an opinion or a thought as to why that is? Why has culture continued to be at the forefront for Indigenous peoples this way, in terms of how they're being taught, how you are being solicited for this kind of world? Do you think Indigenous culture is evolving and serving more people?
Well, I believe that all of us are extensions of our ancestors. So, and this is like scientifically proven, you know, our DNA, you know, we are connected. We are connected to the past. And within us as people, it's the same. Doesn't matter what language you speak or which country you come from. Like we are all extensions of our ancestors. And like our particular story here in Canada, as we're learning about truth and reconciliation, you know, what they tried to do to us, to kill the Indian and the child, to prevent us from learning our culture, speaking our languages, you know. but we resisted, and we fought against that. And so here we are today. Culture is very important. Knowledge of our ancestry and our traditions, ceremonies, language. It's so very, very important. And I think there's a resurgence that has been going on for some time now. I call it a war. We are in a war. And this war that I'm talking about is the war to save our culture. And so, like, I'm a frontline soldier. You know, you're a frontline soldier. And like, we are the, you know, the master the what do you call, master sergeants yelling at the, you know, the younger ones, you know, like to get up there and fight, you know, and they see us, and we're role models. And I think that's kind of what has been happening for some time now. Growing up in the urban center, though, is very challenging for many, many Indigenous people. They have nowhere to go. Seems like no one to ask, you know. But somewhere in and around that war zone are, call them veterans, or in English, you know, elders, knowledgeable people. And they're the ones that are being sought out and asked upon for their advice, guidance, wisdom. And slowly, we are reacquiring these ways. Once upon a time, you know, we never really heard of sweat lodges. But now, people have heard of them, you know, in the urban centers. Yeah, and so there's been like a resurgence, and it's been like it was underground for a long time, but then it, you know, with the changes in amending, you know, the laws of the country and the policies and all that, there was a change in thinking, a way of thinking. So, you know, and I do a lot of public speaking with my own, you know, Indigenous audience members. But I often always say to all people, it's very important for you to speak your language, to keep your traditions, to keep your culture, to teach your children. Culture is so beautiful. You know, it truly, truly is. There's nothing wrong with being a Canadian, eh? You know, we can be a Canadian, but at the same time, it's like I'm a First Nation, you know, and I have my ways that are unique to my people. But at the same time, you know, we can all work in the city, have jobs, have prosperity, you know, all these things, we can still enjoy all those, but not at the expense of our culture, though. So that's the message I love giving, not only to my own Indigenous audience, but like right across, especially, you know, for as they are called newcomers, you know, so it's so important. It really, really is. I've often been told, you know, some people, it's like they want to become like melted into the fabric, and they're willing to give up their language to become part of the fabric, but I say no. Why would you do that? You know, like don't do that. Keep your language, and it can be done, and it is being done.
So there's a real source of strength that you're referring to that comes, and it's innate to all of us, and that strength that comes from our ancestors. You mentioned the importance of language. We're seeing changes in this country where you're starting to see Indigenous languages on street signs, and we're starting to see some more global acceptance. And we recently, there's a school in Saskatoon referred to as Wakotowin School, which means to be connected, to be related, to be in one in community. Do you think that Indigenous languages will continue to be weaved into this country, and what difference do you think that would make as a country? Does it make us better?
Oh, without a doubt, it makes us better. You know, language gives you insight into the culture. And this is what's starting to happen now right across Canada. And it's important that this, you know, be embraced, this idea. It's very, very important. And it is part of reconciliation. You know, if Canada wants to reconcile, then language has to be part of that process as well. So to see signage, you know, like in the languages, here in our own city of Saskatoon, you know, they changed the name of a street, and now it's called Miwakutuin. That's the name of the street. And there was a lot of Saskatoonians who weren't very happy because they had to learn how to say Miwakutuin. They had to learn to say that, and they kind of had a, you know, a little bit of trouble. But it's kind of like, get over it, because this is what happened to us.
Yeah, I suppose.
This is exactly what happened to us. We had to learn all these English, you know, names and English words and concepts, and you know, and we had to learn, and we had to get over it, so to speak. So here we are now learning like one or two words, and you know, like, give me a break. You know, so but it's a beautiful thing though. Like, language is so beautiful. For the most part, a lot of people don't seem to realize that we already have many words in our common vocabulary that come from Indigenous languages. Toronto, Ottawa, you know, chipmunk, Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, like those come from the Indigenous languages, you know, and people don't seem to know that. You know, like moose is another example. Yeah. So as part of reconciliation, to see words in the language, and even written in they call it syllabics, or even for it to be written like phonetically from the language. It's a beautiful thing to see. And you know, the more that happens, the more it'll become normalized, and we'll get used to it. People will get used to it. So that's all that has to happen there.
Yeah. So when you think about reimagining Canada, is really about recognizing the role we've always been, the role we've always had in this country. When you say reconciliation, and I know we only have a few moments left, what do you think a reconciled Canada would look like?
Well, it's, in my opinion, it's slowly happening. We are crawling in the right direction. When I think about, you know, the residential schools in our province, they existed for 122 years. So if we think reconciliation is going to happen next month, like next year, it's going to take generations, you see? So when I think of it that way, then that's what I mean, like we're crawling in the right direction to see all these changes that are starting to occur over a period of time. So when I want to reimagine, you know, what Canada would look like, already I want to see us as a Indigenous people taking our rightful place in our own country here. Like right now, many of us live in poverty. Many of us are unemployed. Many of us aren't finishing our high school. You know, there's all these socio-demographic statistics that exist. Those have to change. Those all have to change, and so slowly they are changing. And when those start to change, then we're gonna. That's the day we'll take our so-called rightful place. If we make up 15% of the total population, then if you go to the jails, there should only be 15% of us in there. You see, like that's how it should be. So for that to happen over time, it's going to take generations. But that's what I think about when I reimagine Canada. Yeah, I want us to take our rightful place.
Oh, I sure appreciate this conversation, Lyndon. And you said something that I will take with me today and forever, is that our ancestors are guiding us and they are our strength, but it's all of our ancestors, regardless of where you come from. It's to listen, to open your heart and be ready for the strength that the ancestors want to give us. Lyndon, thank you very much for today, and I look forward to working with you some more. You will continue to lead us and you'll continue to inspire that next generation. And a thank you to the Threads audience for staying with us today, and have a wonderful day.
Try to live a good life. The old people say, be happy, be honest, be kind, be respectful. Stay away from negativity. The old people tell us that. And how to do that is to accept your identity.